Welcome back to the pod. This is Moving the Needle podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Nietlin. Quick one. This is going to be the episode 2 with Aaron Gwin. If you missed episode 1, make sure you go back and find that. That was about a week ago we released that. Now let's pick up where we left off. You think you're a victim of your own success? I just coined that phrase. Like, I feel everyone's hard on you remember when you could get second at a race.
Yeah.
What went wrong? It's like, what do you mean what went wrong? You're like, I know I won a lot of races in a row and I won a lot of titles. And
Yep.
then you ask me what's wrong when I get second or third. It's like, how hard was that being you during that phase? And or with some of these injuries, and everyone's like, he's done. And I'm like, I don't think he's done. And
Yeah.
then you would get another injury. I mean, every preview podcast, I'm like, this is the year Gwyn's back. Like, he's not done.
Up, he's on the ground again. Never mind.
Yeah, I was
Yep.
like, it's not from lack of speed, I promise.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I rode twice and was on the podium this weekend, or I came off the couch pretty much literally last year and I felt like pretty fast at saying it. And I don't say that to be cocky again. I know where I'm at realistically. I know my skills. I know also the level of where things are going now and how gnarly that's getting. Um, but I believe I have that speed. It's just been for whatever reason. I don't know. I come back to my faith where I'm like, I know God works all things out for my good, and good or bad. I usually learn a lot more in hard times than I do when things are good. So on a personal level, if I look 10 years down the road from now, when I'm sitting on the porch with my wife and kids or whatever, like, am I going to be a better father or a better man because I won more races or because I went through more struggles and had to figure things out and readjust? Probably the latter. So success isn't just defined by results, but yeah, it's a tricky one. But yeah, as far as like that was hard for me when I was, dominating, so to speak, was a second place was like it was like people were cheering that you got beat finally because it's like just tired of seeing you win, or like it was like, oh, second place, what happened? And it was like, dude, I dabbed a foot in that corner and lost a half a second, got beat. Like, I don't know what you want from me. Like, I can't do it all the time. So it is hard. I think anybody that's ever dominated a sport, it's interesting because you go from this like underdog mentality, which I definitely had coming in. And I think I maintained that for a lot of years, even when I started winning. Like I said, I felt like I would lose it at any time. And I felt like I was always fighting to try to do that. But you get to a point where you're just expected to win by everybody, and it gets like, obviously you have your core fans that want you to dominate and are stoked, but you get a lot of people that are like, dude, can we just like see some better racing? Can we get more people winning? I understand that. I'm a fan of other sports. I love motocross. There's dudes like Jet Lawrence or something that like, huge fan of him on a 250, huge fan of him on a 450. He's an amazingly talented rider. I don't really want to see him win every single outdoor race. Like, can Tomac or somebody please win one of these races? Like, I start rooting for the underdog. Like, that's sports, and that literally, he didn't change. He's only become more of an incredible rider every year he's raced. But I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'd like to just see good racing. So I understand that too. So it's hard as an athlete though, when you go from like winning and being the underdog and everybody being stoked to then like just being expected to win, and then having people like really root against you because they're just like, dude, we want somebody else to win. Like, this dude's, especially if you're a bit of a robotic winner and you just like win and like say, yep, it was a good day, I won, looking forward to next week, and you walk away, which I was maybe a little more like that earlier in my career. People were like, dude, get this guy. Like, we need
No,
something
you would do the
entertaining.
moto, the we. You were
Yeah,
good at the
yeah,
we. I was like, what do you mean the we? Yes, as a team,
yeah.
but you smoked us.
Yeah,
You did that.
yeah. So it was yeah, I get both sides, man. That's just sports, and that's fans. I think my best friend Greg, he always put it really well. He's like, dude, it's fans. You got to have people that love you and you got to have people that hate you. Like, that's what makes sports great, is you have people that are passionate on both sides. Like, that, if there wasn't, there'd be no interest in it. Nobody would do it. So it's like, just appreciate it all. It's all part of the deal. And I think when I matured a little bit more and didn't take that personal, because I was always just working really hard, trying to be very nice to everybody, respectful, never do anybody wrong, and winning, and then have people like thrashing you online. You're like, dude, I don't try to do anything but just my best. Like, this sucks. I didn't ask for any of this. Like, I'm just a kid from a small town trying to like friggin' make a dream happen here. Um, but that's sports, you know, and I encourage our younger riders and even some of the guys that are really good nowadays too. Like, dude, just enjoy it. Like it's all part of the deal. Don't take it personal. It's it's what makes our sport, like why people watch and pay money and why you have a job. So just roll with it. You know, it's cool. So, but yeah, it is interesting for sure.
And you think your faith, which you've said you spoke about maybe more in your career, but people know you for that. Do you think it's really helpful for being to be able to accept some of the losses, maybe take the pressure off? You said race day was tough for you, but I've heard you talk a little bit, and I've read some books, and there was an Olympic rower that had faith during his Olympic career, and you mentioned like he just accepted that the outcome would be the outcome,
Yeah.
and maybe that was through scriptures and things like that. Is that something you lent on or do lean on?
Yeah, for sure. I think of verses. I think it's like Romans 8:23 says that God causes all things to work together for the good of those who love Him, and He also promises He won't give you more than you can handle. Your future is secured. You know, I know where I'm going, where I'm headed. So for sure, it gives me a lot of peace because it's like I just am in control of me and my effort and what I put into it, and the result will be the result. You know, if he works all things out for good, that means good and bad things. So if I don't have a great race result or I lose a championship or something happens, it's worst case scenario. It's not like life is then just over and like it's too much for him to handle to turn it back around to where I can have a good life after. It's like, it's ridiculous. So it's like, yeah, I believe him, and it's always been true. You know, even if I don't see it in the moment, you know, I always have an understanding looking back where you're like, sucks that happens, but I actually learned this, and thanks, that was pretty valuable. Like I'm glad about that, and maybe it'll be something I don't understand until I die and get to heaven or something, and, and I don't understand it on the backside. But it's like I do believe that it will all work out, and like you said, you can just focus on your effort. I always encourage people, you know, if you can lay down at the end of a long day of racing or work or whatever and be content with your effort, then you can sleep good. Doesn't mean you're always going to be happy because success comes and goes, man. You can work so hard at something and the whole thing unravels and, you know, whatever, you're on the couch for a year with an elbow injury. And it's like, I'm not happy about that. I don't lay down smiling like that was great. I'm really stoked on that. It's like, well, I did everything I possibly could. Like, and that's life, dude. Like, okay, like we'll regroup and we'll go at it. I'm not happy about this, but I'm content, you know, and it'll work out. And so having that for sure, you know, and not having your self worth kind of wrapped up into your race results. I think as a racer, that's kind of tough, you know, when you do good and people are stoked and you feel like, yeah, I'm good. And then you do bad and like people could care less and you're like, oh, you get like depressed. I don't have a lot of that. I'm pretty level because I'm like, my value isn't really there. And the people that I love and that love me, um, you know, so yeah, my faith's a huge part of I think why I perform well under pressure. Because at the end of the day, when I get in the start gate, I'm like, all right, man, this is kind of out of my hands here. Like I'm just gonna give it absolutely everything I have, and when I cross the finish line, I'll see how I did, and I'll either be more happy or less happy. But as long as I'm content with the effort, life's good, man. I got people I love, people that love me. I feel like my faith is secure, and I know where I'm headed, and so it's part of the process, and you carry on. So you don't carry the burden so heavy, you know, like the results and like your security or your self worth or the money or whatever, because I don't believe that ultimately any of that really matters. I think God's controlling things, and He's working with my faith as I go, and I'll be cared for, whether that's with a little bit or with a lot, doesn't matter. You know, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, whether you believe in the similar faith to you or not, I think it sounds like you've got a lot more perspective that you've been taught through faith, and some people maybe look somewhere else. You know, I follow a bit on like the Stoics and a bit on Buddha, and like I try not to judge. I don't know a lot of the faith because as a youngster I went to church, and then our family didn't really go, but I just see that used correctly or the perspective seems like so more level headed
Yeah.
if you sort of, I'm butchering my words, but if you use it correctly, it's not there to be used, but like you live it for the correct value system. I think it helps you in sports, helps you in life, like get through the tough times and just control what you can control.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, like I I sincerely believe it. So it's not like something I feel like I have to try to perform. I'm like, no, I actually like 100% believe it. Like bullet to the head, pull the trigger or not. Yep, I believe it. Yes, I'm going. Like, so it's not a like yeah, for me, I just yeah, that's my faith, and it's not like some whimsical thing. Like I'm pretty, I don't know, educated on it for sure. You know, I grew up in church as well, and kind of wasn't grooving with that scene, to be honest, and a lot of things, and had to kind of figure it out as I got older, and like really, like you get old enough to be like, all right, there's a dude in the sky controlling everything. Like, how's this work? And like kind of dig in a little bit and really establish my faith,
Yeah, your faith.
which is not really also though like my belief, it's his. You know, it's like I didn't come up with it. Like I don't anybody, and maybe sidetracking on a little bit of a deep combo here, but this is me, so let's do this. But we you know, it's
Hey,
like
but it's
anybody
you,
that's
and I'm interested because
yeah,
it's different to me. Like
totally,
I'm openly interested because I've had this conversation with Mick Hanna as well.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just different. So I'd like to understand without judging.
Totally. And so we, you know, anybody that's been born, it's not like you're born with like a download of information, like divine wisdom. You're just born from your parents. You know nothing, and you learn whatever you learn growing up from the people around you or the things you pursue. So it's not like for anybody. I always laugh, and I might offend some people with this, but it's how it goes. When people are like, "How can you believe there's no God? How do you believe that?" Like, and they just say it with such like uh conviction and yeah, certainty, like sure, 100% certainty. I'm like, bro, unless you were God or something, you can't, like, it's literally ridiculous to say that because you're like, you have no idea. Like, you just have your opinions and the things you've learned throughout your life. And you don't have like some epic special wisdom that nobody else has to like even make it. You have no authority to say that. So it's like a ridiculous thing. You could say, well, I just don't really believe it, but I don't know. At least that would be a more reasonable thing to say. But anyway, sidetrack. But yeah, for me, you know, if you understand the word of God, you understand like he doesn't believe different things. He says there's one faith, one hope, all that kind of stuff. He's not divided. He's a person. Like he believes one way about himself, just like I am me. If somebody came to me and said like, yeah, Aaron's last name is Smith, and he races airplanes, and he's married to some chick named Ashley, and blah blah blah. I'd be like, dude, that's not me. Like, that's not my life. That's not who I am. And they're like, and he likes onions, and you know, blah blah blah. I'm like, no, I actually don't. I like this food, and I believe this about my life, and here's the things I value. Like, I am just me. I'm one way. So if people try to relate to me in a way that is not me, it's like, dude, we don't have like a relationship, right? Like, you're not relating me based on reality. So when I say this is my faith, it's like, yeah, it is my faith, but it is a exact replica of God and Christ's faith, which they clearly explain in the Word of God repetitively, especially in the New Covenant, like at a childlike level. Religion does a really good job of making it really confusing, unfortunately. But if you just go to the Word of God and you understand where to go, and the context is pretty clear. It's easy to understand. So I just believe what he believes. And so for me, that gives me like a lot of peace because it's not like, well, it's my opinion. I'm like, I just agree with him. If he created everything and he says this is how it is, and I look at that and go, that's good and kind and loving and all the things that it is, then it's like, okay, cool. I'd be confident in that. Like, yeah, I understand it. I believe it. I agree with him. I'm good. Okay, cool. I didn't come up with it. I didn't create it. It's like, that's not my thing. I don't have the authority to do any of that. So it is important to make that, I don't know, like correction. If I say it's my faith, it's like it is, but it's his faith. You know, it's like you're not saved by believing in God or in Christ. It's the faith of God or of Christ, which is a correction that people should understand when they're reading through the Word of God, because you can't just make up your own version, believe whatever you want. Because I believe someday you're going to sit in front of Him and meet Him, and you'll either be able to relate to Him based on who He actually is, or you won't. And so for me, it's very important that I get to know Him on that level. And you know, so anyways, that's kind of my faith in a nutshell, I would say. But as you said, it really, if you read like sports psychology books, there's a book called what's it called? I'm fully spacing on it now. I always recommend it to some of our younger guys. It's pretty good. It'll
It'll
come
come
back
to
to
you.
me.
Maybe I can put
It'll
in the
come to
show
me.
notes if it comes later.
Yeah, it'll come, but it is interesting how a lot of times you read these like sports psych books and they do kind of like you said, whether it's Buddhism or these other religions or whatever, like they all kind of mirror sort of similar where it's like focus on yourself, think about your effort, whatever, not the outcome, focus on the things you can control, not the things you can't control. So there's a lot of like practical wisdom um, wrapped up into all that stuff as well. And I think the more you can kind of live in reality and look at like, yeah, I can't control the outcome. I can only control me. So let's just put the focus there and think about the effort, not the end result. Then cool, like that's a very logical approach, right? Like that's about as good as you're gonna do it. Take the pressure off of it. Just focus on the outcome. And I always believe that if you do that with something and it doesn't work out, what more could you have done? If you can say nothing, then you're like, okay, well, gave it a fair shot, didn't work out. I'm going to do the same thing with whatever I pursue next. And if you're trying to be successful in life at something, I don't know that you're going to do better than that. I think that is the approach, right? So it's like, even if you fail at the first few things, like eventually I think you're going to get to a decently high level of something. Because if you're just focused on your effort and you're really hammering away at that, I think that is the path to being good at really anything. And I believe that pretty much everybody can reach a really high level of all pretty much anything they want to do, barring any physical, height restrictions for basketball or something like that. It's like if you really put your whole effort in to what you're trying to do and you go and you learn, and if it doesn't work out, you just keep applying that to whatever you're doing, I think you'll hit a pretty high level of success at whatever. It's like you're doing this podcast now. I'm sure it's like getting a pretty good amount of success pretty quick because of who you are as an athlete. Like you understand what it looks like to put effort into something, care about the details, really go the extra distance to be successful at something. And it's like you keep applying that mindset to whatever you do, your odds of success are going to be a lot higher than, than somebody that's not doing that. So I think that kind of is the path, which I think is exciting. It's encouraging. I try to encourage people with that. It's like, dude, you can all kind of really, I believe, reach a level of greatness. Maybe not the best in the whole world, but you could be really good at a lot of things if you really apply yourself. You know, so it's yeah. I guess that's a little bit of a lot of stuff.
No, dude, I appreciate you unpacking that. Because, like you said, there's so many practical wisdoms in what you've learned through faith. Um, I'm super open minded. I think the older I get, the more I will admit, the more I know, the more I don't know
Yeah.
on the faith side, on anything I follow. And these thoughts we have are not ours. it's
Yep.
all it's all inputs, and I'm trying to learn on like stopping a bit of inputs here and there in this fast paced life and try to figure out which thoughts I resonate with more, or which are really not good thoughts to have, or even value systems, right? So yeah, man, I agree. Like I've read enough of those books, and yeah, I think backing a sportsman and a former sportsman, if you can see they really like a new avenue, then I would back them because they have all the freaking template to go and
Yeah.
be successful at something else if they really want that thing,
Totally.
if there's sort of passion in there and their skill sets kind of align. Like, can you do anything in the world? No. The basketball analogy is perfect. There are certain genetic dispositions which are good and bad personality traits, but I think if you try enough with that effort, you will find something that you can excel at for
Yep.
sure. And I think that's a great message that sportsmen can give over, is like the reason we did what we did is because we never gave up. So
Yep.
I was this like saying on what mental strength is. He's like, he doesn't really feel it exists. It's just a guy that refuses to fail.
Yeah.
That's grit, right?
For
It's
sure.
like,
Yeah.
why is
I
Gwyn
can.
so good? Well, he just actually never gave up. He could have stopped after the motor career, but he just didn't.
Yeah, BMX didn't work out, motocross didn't work out, a lot of things didn't work out for the one thing to finally work out. But without all
Yeah,
of those other things, I definitely wouldn't have been successful at mountain bike racing. So it's yeah, it's kind of it's the path, right? So I think the thing that's hard is like just finding a direction, like what is the thing I want to
super
put
tough,
my
right?
effort into? That's the hard part. I think I always encourage younger people and stuff like establish your faith on like what do you want? I use faith kind of loosely. It's not like some weird spiritual word. It just means belief. Like what do you want? Like if you believe, and I use this stupid analogy, but it fits, but it's like you show a little kid a picture of somebody with rotting out teeth and you say, hey, do you want your teeth to look like this? And they're like, no. And you're like, okay, see this brush? Brush your teeth. It's like, it's not some random law like, oh, you got to do this. It's like, if you can give them, like, and kids obviously like maybe don't understand the consequences for sure of a lot of things, but if you can establish your belief on why you're starting to do something and why you're going to do it, even if you're like, I can't really see the end of it, maybe I'm going to get a year in and I won't like it, but as far as I can tell right now, I've done all the research, all the thought. I think this is worth the effort for a while. Then it's like, okay, good. Then go get after it. If you've got a faith that can kind of pull you through things on what you're working out, and if it doesn't work out, then it's like, okay, cool. Well, that was my belief at the time. Now I have more information. There's more factors. Like, let's make this adjustment. Let's change direction and go here. But it's like, yeah, not having the aim, not developing the belief behind why you're doing stuff, and you just do it because you have to do it. Um, that's short lived. That doesn't you can't persevere. If you tell somebody, oh, just do this every single day, it's like, but why? Like,
No, why? Yeah, you got to figure. It's tough though. Like
yeah,
it's. I've
it
got a
is.
nephew that's 18, like, and he's thinking careers now or studying, and it's a lot of pressure, And then I'm thinking 18 years ahead when my little one's going to be that old. I'm like, that's a lot of pressure, but you've got to let them find their way, right? Ask the
Yeah.
right questions. Someone was saying like having being a parent is like going bowling and putting the guardrails up. You just put the guardrails up. They've got to get it down the lane and over the pins
Mm-hmm.
and through the pins and hit a strike and hit a foul ball. And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good
Yeah, you
analogy.
watch them bounce
You're
around a
just the
little along the
guardrails.
way. Yeah, just try to like kind of keep them in the
Yeah.
general direction.
But if you put, if you try something and you want to put effort in, I think you should lean into that as well. Like, where do you spend your spare time? What videos are you watching on YouTube, or what's
Yeah,
consuming on your algorithms? Like, there are these little lessons along the way on like what interests you, and if you're interested, you often pursue something for longer than a month,
yeah,
and because you start pursuing it, you often get good.
yeah,
And people like to be good at things. We have egos as well, right?
yep. And it's definitely more fun to be good at something you enjoy. My dad always had a saying that I think his dad gave him, and I remember it as a kid. He always used to say, "If you aim at nothing, you'll probably hit it." and I remember
Yeah.
being like, "Yep," like, aim at something. If it doesn't work out, I think you're just going to be more prepared for whatever the next thing is you give a go. But if you don't aim at anything and you just kind of cruise around, you're not going to get close to anything. So it was like, yeah, it's like if you try and a fail, it's like way better than never trying anything. It's like, man, that's life. Like, value those lessons. If you try and you fail, you'll usually gain a lot through the failure and it'll make you better at the next thing. So it's like, don't try to get away from those things. Like, be okay with that. Like, that is the process. You're guaranteed to learn, and the more you know, the better you're gonna be. So it's like a kind of simple, like, obvious thing. Like, well, just do more of that until you're really good at something. It's like it. I think it'll come at a level at least.
Yeah, and I think you're perfect authority to say like if you put 100% in and it doesn't work out, you can sleep okay at night. You had that with
Yeah,
BMX, you had with moto, and I've seen that with some friends that are sportsmen as well. And they weren't willing to sacrifice the last few things or not leave the bar early enough to get training the next day or whatever. And I was like, I just feel like that's where the regret comes, not because you didn't win X, Y, Z. You're just like, if
yeah,
you're gonna kind of make it in a career and then it doesn't work out, like you're gonna regret that.
yeah.
You're gonna regret not putting 100% in. You are that I know.
Totally. Yep. Yeah, when you don't give it all and you look back and you go, coulda, shoulda, and I knew better. It's one thing to say, oh, I coulda, shoulda, but I didn't know I was doing the best I could. Then it's like, well, it's the best you could. That's life. But if you're like, yeah, but I kind of knew, it's like, well, that sucks.
You
It's like,
you often do know, hey, don't you think? Like your gut often will tell you you're mailing
mm-hmm,
it in, right?
totally. Yeah, it's like you're kind of blowing it right now, dude. You should try a little bit better, maybe.
But it adds the pressure, man.
Yeah, for sure. And at the same time, I think the doors never close, man. I mean, it's short. You never know when it'll end, but it's also it's not like you can't just become very successful at something at 40 or 50. It's like just because you're 25 or 35 and you haven't figured it all out doesn't mean like, now it's just I'm too old. It's like, dude, you can learn a lot of stuff in the matter of 3 to 5 years. Like it's not really ever over. Like you can keep trying, you can keep finding that next thing. Maybe you don't get to like pursue the ultimate dream of being a racer or something because you didn't start till you're 30, but it's like there's still a lot of great things out there. And I believe like, even in sports, like, I mean, I didn't start racing downhill until I was 20. I had a crazy history of racing before that. Like Dakota, I feel like is just coming into his prime and he's over 30. It's like more and more sports people are like pushing 40, and still like the best in the world. So it's, that's one thing I think, like, don't get discouraged if you feel like, oh, I kind of missed my opportunity. The door's closed. I'll never have another one. And I'm just settling in. It's like, there's always time to make, I think, little adjustments and keep aiming at something. It probably gets harder time wise because you got more responsibilities, but to a certain extent, I think it's always possible to keep excelling at things.
Have you heard the saying, we overestimate what we can do in a day, but underestimate what we can do in 10 years? Have
Yeah.
you heard that saying?
Yeah. It's probably accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all running around trying to do a million things in a day, and then you're like, I don't know if I can do that thing. And it's like, yeah, but
Totally.
if you just widen the timeline,
Yeah.
you can.
Totally. Yeah. And I say that actually.
You don't retire in a day.
Yep.
You widen the timeline and you snowball effect these things. So it's
Yep.
super interesting.
Yeah, and I kind of say like if you take for example, you're like 5 years probably, unless the world ends or something crazy. 5 years is gonna go by no matter what. And in 5 years, where do you want to be? It's like if you start a little bit every day, it doesn't matter if you're like have never played guitar. I guarantee if you pick up the guitar today and you go, in 5 years from now, I'm just gonna play 30 minutes a day 3 days a week. You know, that's pretty minimum. You could say 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, or whatever. 5 days from now, you're probably going to be a pretty good guitar player. Even if you know nothing about music, nothing about anything, like it's just repetition. There's not like a secret to success. It's just the repetition of doing something over and over and over again until you get better at it. So, and that time is going to go by whether you pick up the guitar or you don't. So, do you want to play the guitar in 5 years or do you not? It's like the time's going to go by and you're going to hit that point eventually. What do you want? So yeah, it's a lot of work and it's discipline, but it's not magic. Like it's pretty it's pretty straightforward how these things work out, at least to a certain level of ability, right?
Just like people spring clean their homes, it's also a great time to reset your body and routine. Whether you're heading into warmer days or still shaking off winter, feeling good starts from the inside. And for me, that starts with AG1. I've always cared about my health, whether it was during my racing days or now, juggling travel, work, riding, the little one, and everything in between. But even with the best intentions, I don't always get the nutrition I need. That's why I love AG1. It's so easy. One scoop, I mix it up in 60 seconds, and boom, I'm covering my bases with 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and more. No more cabinets full of random supplements. I hate that. Just one simple habit that actually sticks. With daylight savings kicking in for some, those brighter mornings are a great time to dial in your routine. Whether you're waking up to crisp spring air or full blown summer heat like I am in South Africa, AG1 helps me shake off the grogginess and get going. Plus, it actually tastes good, which makes it easy to stay consistent. This time of year, we're all getting outside more, riding, traveling, just being more active. AG1 makes it simple to support my body, whether I'm at home or on the move with the travel packs. Listen to this, it's been tested for over 500 herbicides and pesticides, made with no artificial junk, and it's NSF certified for sport, so I trust what's going into my body. Best of all, there's a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free. Right now, you get a free bottle of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs at a $48 value for free when you go to drinkag1.com/moving the needle or click the link in the show notes. That's drinkag1.com/moving the needle to simplify your routine and feel your best this season. Start with AG1. So what does this year look like? Because we spoke about the Tennessee National, and then you're going to do some of the Pro Downhill series, and I'm spitballing, spreading soft rumors. Like I'm like, does Gwin do all the World Cups? And you just mentioned your first round is only round two. So if I heard that correctly, you're not doing round one.
Yeah, yeah. So
So you're
I'm
not doing a full series. So I was half
yeah.
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the plan is, and the plan can change. I've got good flexibility in my program this year, but the plan for now is to race probably 7 out of the 10 World Cups. I think I will probably miss Poland, Val d'Isole, and Switzerland, which kind of sucks because those are three of my favorite. I haven't raced Poland, but it looks like it would be a good track for me. Val d'Isole is probably my favorite track on the circuit. But I'm missing them just because the schedule is just gnarly this year. Like we're really busy. We got a lot going on. There's 10 World Cups now. The way they scheduled the races the first part of the year is like there's Poland, and then I think there's one weekend off, and then there's the next two races, and then one weekend off, and then Val d'Isole, and then one weekend off, and then two races, and then one week. It's literally like I just would need to go to Europe and just live there for the first like 3 months of the season, or fly back and forth like 6 times in 2 months. And I don't really want to do either one of those things, to be honest. Um, so I think I'm fortunately in a position with my sponsors and stuff now, our partners. They really like what I'm doing, the media that I'm doing when I do race, kind of what that provides. So they're kind of all like, dude, World Cups are cool, but if you want to just like race a lot and do media stuff and all that for us, like I don't really care if you race all the World Cups or not. So I'm like, okay, so on one hand, it's going to be really difficult for me as a competitor to not race all the World Cups and kind of chase a World Cup title type of thing, or have an opportunity to be in the hunt. But I've always wanted to do the US National Series, and it's kind of gone up and down through my career. On like some years it's been really big and successful, and some years I feel like we haven't even really had one. Right now, the Pro Downhill Series is like really starting to take off here in the US. Like Clay's doing a great job. The tracks are good. The media is great. The competition's really good. Like they're really cool races to do. And I really enjoy doing them because these are like the people that have kind of supported me through my whole career. Like they're hometown fans. So to call it like everybody in the US, I kind of consider a hometown fan at this point. Like these are the people that have watched me, supported me. I've raced around. So when I go to these races, like I really love being at those races with the people that are out here. I like that the fans that are watching are also racing. Like these are Cat 2, 3 guys, they're also on the track. You get to talk to them in the pits. They're like, "Oh, what do you think about your bike setup? And how do you run your brakes?" And I'm like, "Well, here's my bike. Go pedal it around the parking lot. You can feel it for yourself." It's like you get to have some like interactions and kind of like time with people that are hard to get at World Cups. Like World Cups, you're so zoned in. You're so like the schedule is really busy. Like you don't have a lot of time for anything but just race and hotel and rest and repeat. So yeah, I'm gonna do the whole U.S. National Series this year. Just always kind of been a dream of mine to want to do that, and usually I do one a year, and so I'll get to do all of them. Did the Tennessee National yesterday. Obviously, I'm gonna do Sea Otter in a couple weeks. I really like that event for the same reason. Like you get to just kind of hang out with everybody, and all my partners are like all the brands are there, so I get to catch up with them. We'll do Crankworks in the summer. So I think like my schedule this year, I think I'm scheduled to do like 18 races. I think it's like more races than I've ever done in a year. But out of those 18 races, I think like 11 of them are in the US. So I'll just fly to Europe, I think 3 times. And each time I go over, I do 2 races back to back and come home. So it's just a lot easier of a travel schedule for me. Being a North American athlete and a North American team, racing in Europe, like it's just like it's a lot. I've been doing it for a lot of years, so I'm just trying to kind of find a schedule. I really want to compete for wins at the World Cup level. Like I have that competitiveness in me and that kind of fire still. So I don't want to step away from that. And maybe even next year, depending on how the year goes, maybe I'll step back into a full season. I don't know. But this year I was like, I really want to keep competing at that level, but I want to do these other events that I've always wanted to do. And I want to do more racing, but I also want to be home more. I don't want to like go to Europe for the whole summer. Like I got like my wife's here and we got chickens at our house and we got the bike park here and we like things that I kind of want to be around, like I just don't want to be gone all the time. Traveling for 3 or 4 days to go do a US race, most of which we can drive to, is a whole lot different than flying to Europe for a month at a time. You know, if the World Cup series was in the US, I'd probably race another 10 years or something. I don't know, but it's the travel that is really difficult year over year. So yeah, that's kind of my schedule this year. Bit of a hybrid schedule. Hope to race world champs, and yeah, 7 of the 10 World Cups. Yeah, that's the plan.
It makes total sense. Like that's what burnt me out, the traveling and living out of a bag. So I think at this point in your career, I think we're lucky that you decide to do something like that because it's going to give you another year or five or more. Like if you're still competitive at the US Nationals and they're growing, I love what Clay's doing. Going to US Open, yeah, it brought back all the memories of racing in America. It just is a
Yeah,
different vibe.
totally.
I loved World Cups. I love the vibe of Europe, but it's totally different.
Yeah,
Those
for
fans are
sure.
different to the American fans, as well as the culture and just simple things like certain hotels you stay at the East Coast in America versus the European chalets. Like
Yeah.
everything's different, and you've done it for so long. Like you have earned this right to decide what to do, and it's awesome you've got partners for it, and it's awesome we've got an American series that I really hope goes from strength to strength. So that's pretty cool. And are the changes to the World Cups at all affecting this decision? You know, the format changes, the compact practice schedule. Like, what are your thoughts on that? I know you did some commentary. I think you're an ambassador for them or were. So I understand maybe some things you have to agree with or it's just not worth talking about. But I'd like to hear, since you've been in the sport for so long.
Yeah, yeah, I have no yeah, they just hired me on to do the commentating and I was just stoked to help do it. I really enjoyed doing it, but I don't have any deal with UCI or Warner Brothers or anything outside of that. So I can say whatever I want to say.
So that was
Um
just last year, the deal,
yeah.
not this year.
Yeah, yeah, we had talked this year about me maybe they really wanted me back to do the broadcast stuff, but I was like, man, I really want to race like at least 7 of the races. That's my plan. So like I can pull a Ludenville and like walk into the booth right after my race run. But if I qualify good, I'm not gonna be able to do that. You know, I'd
No.
like to be the last guy down the hill. And
Yeah, you're like, "Yeah, I might not. The plan's not to be there. I can't
yeah,
be
yeah,
available."
I like doing it, but I'd rather be on the racetrack. But so we had talked about me maybe commenting or commentating remotely at the 3 rounds I'm gonna miss. I don't love the idea of that because I think what I bring as a commentator is that unique perspective of the track, the athletes, what I watch in practice. I love standing on the side of the hill and watching. And then when I get in the booth, I can talk about the things that you're not going to know unless you were there or you
Agree.
see
Yeah.
things the way I see it. So if I'm, here in Tennessee commenting on a race and I'm watching Vital and Pink Bike recaps every day to see the course and talk to riders and stuff. Like my perspective is going to be greatly limited to what I think it would be if I was on site. But again, I don't want to travel that much, so I don't want to do the extra travel. Like if I'm going to go over there, I would rather race at this point than commentate. So I think I don't know how much I can say, but I think they found another person to kind of replace me this year, which I think people will be happy with. And I was chatting with him the other day about it, and so I'm really happy for him. I think he'll be a good fit, and I'll just focus on racing. But anyway, so yeah, as far as the rules go, like yeah, I think it affected it a little bit. Really, honestly, it's the schedule and the amount of racing. I think it's awesome that the World Cups have 10 rounds now. I think that's great. I think it's good for the sport, good for spectators, all that kind of stuff. Fans, you got more racing to watch. It's a more consistent schedule. Like every few weeks in the summer, there's going to be a race. You don't have to like, some of the years where you race South Africa in March and then there's 3 months to the next race. And you're like, dude, you had all this hype. And then they're like, see ya 3 months from
Yeah.
now.
Gotta
Um,
lock up the animals. Be like a bunch of
yeah.
caged animals just
Yeah, you
struggling in a
like
cage.
semi-retire in the middle of a race season, then come back out, in June or whatever. But so I think that's all good. I try to be pretty optimistic about the changes because I don't ultimately, at the end of the day, like I don't understand kind of the behind the scenes workings of what they're really trying to do or the stats or the numbers or so I hope it's all good things. I kind of understand like trying to make the focus around the top riders and limiting it to the top riders for, outside sponsors or new fans, I think logically makes some sense. It's hard for me because I really like the Red Bull schedule. Like I like the top 60 qualifiers and 20 people protected. You always got the top guys in the finals. You got if you're going to spend all this money and go to Europe, you've got a good chance to actually race more than, one day and not qualify for a lot of people, which I think is cool. But I understand the other side as well. So I think for us, we didn't have an opportunity to be a UCI elite team because I wasn't doing all the races. You have to have at least one athlete at every single race to be one of those teams. And I think the team fee is like 35 grand, which um, that's a lot of money, and I'm like, I don't know exactly, like, again, because I never really went after that to know what that provides you. So I would say, like, in the state of post COVID industry, I think things will start to turn around this year and I think be pretty good because I think the industry is very healthy. I think just the bike market itself is pretty saturated at the moment for a lot of different reasons. But at the end of the day, it is a lot of money. It's a lot of time away from home, traveling, all those things. So I think more so what for sure made me decide to do a limited schedule is just the amount of races and the way the races laid out. We're just going to be so much back and forth, flight wise, or so much time in Europe. And I was just like, man, I want to race at that level and be competitive on that level. But I kind of want to like have a little bit more balanced life in other areas as well. So that was really the reason for me.
That makes me think, me, I love my golf, like where you get to pick your schedule.
Mm,
And part of me thinks this is a cool experiment and it could end quite well. Like if you know you're missing around, but you've done your prep at other races and like then you know you want to be there. You've picked those two races back to back, you
yep.
know,
Yep.
go and
For
make them
sure.
count.
Yeah.
And if you miss around, it's like you're gonna have to try a little hard at the next one if you feel your speed's not there. But
Yeah.
you've got your prep in another American race. So I'm super interested to see that work out. As far as Warner Brothers, I've I've definitely been. I guess I get paid to be outspoken a bit, which is good or bad. But I've always tried to say the same as you. Like I am not in the room, so I don't know all the red tape. I did prefer potentially having more riders in the final, not broadcast all of them, obviously, because I used you as an example. If you're coming back from injury, like I want to see you race. I want to
Yeah.
see you qualify 45th because you're finding your feet, and then you'll probably spark one in the finals and get a
Yep.
good result, and that'll help with momentum. But when someone like you might not be in the final because of these weird circumstances, that bums me out,
Mm-hmm.
as well as some of the youngsters. So yeah, I'd prefer to see a few more if possible, but I understand focusing on the top few. And I definitely like the LCQ idea because I chatted to Bernard about that like a year or two ago, so it's cool that there's a similar thing happen. And I like if you're going to get rid of protection, obviously, then you must build that in. So I do like that
Yeah.
part.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I think I think that almost plays into my, it doesn't make it easier on me personally. I would say that it just will make it maybe a little more fair, that nobody's protected. So it's not like, ah, man, I really need to do all the races because if I only pick a few, I'll be outside of the top 10 or 20 because I'm going to miss races. So I actually have to qualify every race, and the guys I'm racing against can just use qualifying as a practice run. I did not like the semi qualifying format, even though I did good at it. I didn't really enjoy it. I just think it was kind of unnecessary. So I think what they're doing now is better. It kind of works out for me because I can just rock up to round two and I'm like, nobody's protected. I got to qualify, but so does Loke, Bruni, and everybody else I got to race against. So here we go, boys. So it's maybe a little more fair on that standpoint. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think that like having maybe 40 riders in the final and having 15 ish protected, and they usually do like overall standings and then last year's standings. I think there's some wisdom in that because I'm with you, dude. Like I would hate to watch a supercross race. I always use supercross because I'm a fan of that. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, Eli Tomac didn't make the main tonight. And you're like, what? Like, dude,
Yeah.
that's
What are
the
you
reason
talking
I'm
about?
watching the 450 main is because I want to watch that dude race this other dude. And if it's like, I don't know if they're gonna make it through finals, and it's like, well, that kind of sucks. It adds some drama and point swings potentially. If Logue Bruni misses the finals and he's the leader, like, well, you're probably not leading the finals anymore. It's not like a bad race as a fifth. It's gonna be like a DNF or a did not qualify. So, but I don't know. I'm as a racer, I just want to see all the fastest guys compete on Sunday afternoon when it counts at the same time on the same track. Like that's me. And whatever we got to do to try to make that happen, like that would be where I would lean. So we'll see. I think with the LCQ, some things would have to go pretty bad twice to maybe for a top guy not to get in. But at the same time, if you look back over the last year and you were to apply next year's rules to this year, I'm sure there's some top guys that aren't making finals, but I mean, that was the same thing last year with semis. Like a lot of top guys at certain races didn't make the finals. So yeah, I don't know. But I think for us, again, as a North American rider, dude, you spend a lot of money and time flying to Europe and doing all this stuff, and to not qualify when you feel like you're a top five guy, like that's a tough one. But part of the sport, so we'll see.
Yeah, I also think it. I was hoping for at least 40, if not 50,
Yeah.
just as like a round number, and I think it's a cool number. Top 50 in the world. You know,
Hmm.
many sports have 50 in the finals or 50 on game day. Tennis have 64, and surfing has a certain number. Golf has a cut at about 60 or 70 in ties. You know, like kind of want to say that you beat 50 guys on finals, but I
Yeah.
do like the fairness. You got to build the fairness in. So we'll see how it plays out. You got to be open minded. Like I said, like half got paid to have some sort of opinion on it, and I guess I was just so passionate. I just didn't want to like lose certain riders too early. Like I agree with the changes. I agree with why they're doing it. Sometimes I'm not in the room, so I can't say if the implementation could have been done different with constraints or goals they have. So yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you there as well.
Yeah, totally. And I don't know, like, if we fast forwarded 2, 3 years from now, what's the end goal? Like, what should this look like? I'm not in the room for those conversations, so I really hope that that end goal is like better for the sport, the riders, Warner Brothers, everybody crushes it 3 years from now, and we're like, oh my gosh, that was the best thing that ever happened. I really hope that's how it works out. But I don't have the information to really understand that. So I choose to be optimistic, and I'll help however I can if there's an opportunity to help in some way that I have time for. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, likewise. I'm the same. None of us have a crystal ball, and I think them and us and everyone. Yeah, I think they should use the people that are offering help and have the experience. Like I just think that riders union or whatever, it just never seemed to get off the ground. Or
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not in that room either.
yeah,
I just there's some really smart guys previously
yeah,
racing bikes, currently racing bikes that I think could help the product for sure.
yeah. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I'm stoked to help however I can, and I know there's other athletes that feel the same way. It's tricky when you get into it for sure, but yeah, I hope nothing but good things for them the next few years and the athletes. So I'm as a fan as well. I'm like, fingers crossed. Hopefully, it's
Yeah.
a bold strategy. Hopefully, it pays off.
Yeah, man. No, I saw the passion and I enjoyed the commentary as well. And I agree, man. I when we had to do some remote work at Crankworks and World Champs, I was on site, so those commentaries fine. But when they floated those ideas, it's tough, man. Especially if you like the color.
Yeah,
You've got to find the nuances on the track that the viewer at home can't see. That's a tough one doing remote. And sometimes they're forced to do it, but it's
yeah,
not as good a product.
yeah, for
It's
sure.
not it's not worth saving the money. You got to get those guys on site for sure.
Yep,
Like it's the
totally.
whole week of like walking the pits and walking the track and
It's the little details that you just happen to pick up.
yeah, and it's like sometimes what a rider didn't say that you're like,
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, you can understand if they're going to perform or not.
Yep. Yeah, and if you're there kind of living it on the road throughout the season too, those stories kind of develop. So it's like as the
Yes.
year goes, you kind of know like, oh, this is where this guy's at, or this is where this girl's at, and this is kind of like you kind of know, and you know their history, you know their results, you kind of know like so it's what gives you the things that are interesting when you watch. Because when you watch a race, you can see the split times pop up every 20 seconds or whatever it is. You see when they make a mistake for the most part, the big ones. Like you kind of watch what you watch. So for me, commentary is always, and I mean, I'm definitely biased 100% because I'm a racer. So I see things like different. If I watched a sport that I'd never watched before, I'm going to pick up on way less. I'm going to be like, what's happening? How are they keeping score? I don't understand what's happening. But with this, I'm like, I really understand it. So I really look at it from a rider's perspective. Like when I watch moto or supercross, it's like I like Stewart and these guys that like they're gonna give you the things that you're like, oh, that's interesting. Like that guy did it at that level, and that's how he thinks about it, or he's making these perceptions of other riders that you're not going to get that from anybody else or any other person than somebody that's really there understanding what's going on. And that's what makes it interesting, because I can see what's happening on the screen. I don't need it really explained to me. I think it's really cool to know the details or the backstories on things. So that's what I tried to focus on. I'm not really a hype man. I try to bring enough energy because I can be a bit dry at times, but I'm not the guy. Like, I'm not Rob. Like, I don't bring the energy really to the show. Like, I really need somebody to anchor that part, and I can just kind of give my analytical, like, 2 cents on things. But I will say that I think that the TV coverage as a whole, as far as how much track they're covering and the shots and stuff, I think that has been an upgrade the last couple of years, especially last year. Like, most of the races now, I think they're actually covering like the entire track from start to finish, which we didn't really do in the past. So I think that is one thing I can definitely give props on. Like, it's really cool to see full runs now, which didn't really happen before. In a lot of tracks like Fort William or things like, these are incredible tracks, and you would see the pedal out of the start and then the last minute of that track, which is like not a great like, it's pretty boring the last minute. They've done a good job of making a lot better the last couple of years, but it's a bunch of flat pedaling and you miss all the good stuff in the middle. So I really enjoy watching full runs top to bottom now more than we used to be able to do. So I'm happy they're doing that. And I think if they can narrow the riders down, focus more on the backstories like Red Bull does in some of their, side shows and stuff like that, and kind of build the hype and build these personalities and these riders. There's a permanent number system and some colors so that, like MotoGP and stuff, riders can have a bit of their own signature look a little more, which I think is cool and marketable. So yeah, I hope that it all ends up being a good thing, but we'll see.
Yeah, I saw you had 7 on your back. Is that a number we're going to see more of? I got to pick my own number for Clay emailed me as a former US
Yeah.
Open winner.
There you go.
I've got some numbers that I've put forward, and we'll see what it is. Even though apparently I can only keep it for a year,
Okay.
because I won't be lining up at this year's US. Or maybe I should, just to keep my number, huh?
Let's
Didn't
go. Yeah,
Wyndham do that
for
for a while?
sure. Yeah, come to US
Okay,
Open or something, man. You got to
all
keep
right.
that
Maybe I'll just break the
number.
beam, and then I can keep my number.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll chat to Clay if I can DNF and keep my career number.
Just roll down the track. You still shred. But
I rolled down it behind Petey this last year. That was pretty fun. So I'll
yeah,
do
I
that
bet.
again.
Cool.
I'll find someone I can hang on to. So are we going to see more of 7, the big 7?
Yeah. Yep. So 7 will be my permanent number now. At the World Cups, I got I think second pick or first pick. I still don't know if Greg's actually racing this year or not. I thought he wasn't, and now he is on the roster or something. So technically, they win on who has the most World Cup wins. So Greg has the most. I have the second most. So I got second pick. I picked number 7, and then same at Clay's series, which I'm stoked. I got number 7 there too. So I'll be able to like rock the 7 on my back for all the races this year. Um,
Have you met Bubba before?
no, he's actually one of the only riders I've never met. Supercross guys. I know like pretty much all the rest of them, but I'd never met him. But I was definitely a huge fan. But number 7 was my very first motocross number I ever had when I was 12. And we went to my first 80cc beginner race at Star West. Some people will know where that was, in Lake Paris, California. And there was like 30 dudes and girls in the 80cc beginner class, and there was like 5 riders with number 7. And so we were like, So we added like a piece of electrical tape and turned it to number 17. And then we rocked back up at the next round a few weeks later, and there was like still 2 people that had done the same thing and made 17. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to 117. So I added another one. So my moto number was 117, but my very first number was 7. So it's kind of cool to me because that was really, BMX was more fun. I don't think BMX wasn't in the Olympics when I was a kid. It wasn't like something I thought that I was going to do, I think, as a living. Like, I raced BMX from 4 years old to 8. And even though we raced all over the country and did the nationals, I was too young, I think, to think like this is going to be my career. But motocross, definitely, I wanted to race professionally almost from the beginning. So 7 was my first number. Now I've been very blessed and fortunate to have a great career. And I've got number 7 back on the bike. And it's kind of a cool, like, full circle moment. the old number 7. It's back on track. So I would have never guessed the journey maybe would look like it has looked since I was 12. You know, if you would have told that kid now what's gone on would be pretty wild. But so for me, 7's like, it's kind of special. Like it's cool to be rocking the 7 this year.
That's a awesome backstory. And yeah, could you have ever imagined as a BMX kid and digging those trenches, this is where you'd be sitting?
I don't know, man. I think I applied myself like that's what I wanted to do, but I don't know that you ever. I don't know. It's like you're just working hard nonstop, and all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, I'm actually kind of there." At least that's how it was for me. It wasn't
Must
like,
be kind of surreal.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've had a few of those moments in my career. You know, when I had a couple races at Fontana starting out, it was a little bit like, whoa, crazy. Like I podiumed a pro anything, just the pro class. You're on the podium at it. Like that was like kind of crazy. And then when I won St. Anne, I remember laying in bed that night in a bunk bed, actually on the top bunk with the window cracked, and it was raining outside. Just laying there, like, dude, did that just happen? Like, just top 10 at World Cup, like, and downhill mountain biking. Like, what the heck? Is a crazy, 6 months leading up to that. I was like, wow. Signing my first contract with Yeti, winning my first World Cup in South Africa. I remember that feeling was very surreal. Like, holy crap, I just won a race. Like, but now what? Like, that was insane. First World Cup title. And then a few other races like the chainless race. My last win at Wyndham was really special because my family was there, home race type of thing. Like there's definitely certain races that stick out in my career as kind of this surreal moment where it kind of, it's enough that it pulls you outside of the work and just getting on to the next race and the thing that you kind of take a step back and you're like, wow, like we're doing it. And so it's really cool. But I try to do that more as I've gotten older for sure, because you realize like it ain't gonna last forever. I sound like an old
Yeah,
man, but it's true.
practicing some gratitude, right?
Yeah.
And I think it would be unfair of me not to ask about the World Championship and you. And I mean, I understand you come from motocross and the titles, and I didn't win either. So I don't put weight on either over the other. Like I understand both have a place in our sport. You in every other sport you would be the 5-time world champion by winning the series. But in our sport, you're 5-time World Cup champion, and Loic Bruni has a bunch of world champ stripes,
Yeah.
right? Like what are you at the point in your career like content, or is it a bit like, be it nice that Andrew wouldn't have to ask this damn question right now?
No, I think both. I think I'm at a point where I'm pretty content, and I'm like, yeah, wasn't for lack of effort or trying. Like like, yeah, I'm good with it, whatever. But at the same time, if you were like, would you rather have won a world champs too? I'd be like, heck yeah. It's kind of annoying that I never won a world champs so far. I would love to have won one. I feel like I probably should have won 3 of them, probably pretty easily. Should 100% fastest guy on the day, I
Yeah,
feel
which are the
like.
ones that you were definitely good on the track and in those heyday?
There's
I mean, I don't have them off the top of my head.
Yeah, there's a few. The one that sticks out the
For
most was Leo Gang when my brakes failed in finals and I flew off the track. That was such a
yes,
freak thing. That one, I mean, for sure, I feel like I more than had enough speed. That was the year I was basically winning everything. I think that was 2011, 2012, and feel like I should have won that one. I think I had a really good shot. I don't like bringing this up because I don't like taking anything away from Danny because it was an incredible run, but I think I had a really good shot of winning Champery in 2011. I think I won qualifying by like 7 seconds,
if it didn't rain or even with the rain.
even with the rain. Yeah, because
Okay,
I think I smoked everybody in qualifying in the dry by like a lot. And then in
think
finals,
so. Yeah.
that was not my preferred conditions. And I remember having a very strategic game plan, which I don't normally do for race runs. Like I just ride hard and I just let it be what it is. But all the sketchy stuff was like at the top half of that track, and the bottom half had like more ruts and stuff in the track when you got into the steeper stuff. So I was like, dude, just you have plenty of speed, ride super chill, manage the top half of the track. And when you cross that bridge and pedal down that, like where it crossed the road at the bottom, From there now down, you can like light it up a bit and like turn it on. So I'm like, manage the top half, attack the bottom half. And that was my plan. Then I got through the top half of the track. I think I had one more corner left before that bridge, and I ran off the track and got caught in some netting. And I was like almost like home free in my mind. And I think I was within a second of Danny, like on the same second. And so I don't know because I watched that replay and I can't imagine going any faster than he went on that track. And at the bottom, he's like shredding and whipping and everything. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe he would have beat me in either way. But I think it would have been close. I had a year at Val Sol where I was winning a lot of races, I think on YT, and really just had things unravel. Had another mechanical. I think I blew the tire off the bike in finals. Dude, I can't even remember. There's been, I feel like, so many of them where I was like, felt like a good shot at it. And either had a crash or mechanical, had another crash in Andorra one year where I think I won the World Cup overall, but crashed in World Champs. Yeah, there's been a few, but I feel like two or three of them, like pretty easily, if I just would have done what I normally did, that I should have won it or at least been very close. So that's annoying, but that's life, man. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
just how it's
no, that
gone.
that unfortunately is life. You
Yep.
you got all these other ones.
Yep. So it's yeah, to answer your question, yes and yes. Yes, I'm content, and yes, it sucks to
It
not have won
pisses you off that I get to
one.
ask you that.
I would rather be
Where's
able
Worlds?
to yeah.
I mean, where's Worlds this year? I
Worlds
need it.
this year is
I've
back
like
at
barely
Champery.
started. Ah,
Yeah, it's
okay.
back. So time to put my
It's
money
gonna
where my
be it.
mouth is.
The
Yep.
universe is listening.
Totally. Honestly,
That would be cool.
I
Okay,
feel
but I
like
mean, you've still got some shots. You could become a world champs. Just focus on that. Race in
yeah,
America.
maybe. I know. I was
Put your
honestly,
eggs in that basket.
yep. I was really excited for World Champs in Andorra last year. Winning is not easy, and I haven't won for a few years, but I feel like if there's a track I could win the easiest at, it would probably be that track. It suits my style really good. It's super fast. For the level of fitness I had coming in last year, which was not great, it would have been the easiest track, probably fitness wise for me. There's some altitude there, but there's not a lot of pedaling or anything. I just groove on that track well. I think that I would have had a very good shot at least being on the podium there last year if I could have made the world's team, even though I was like literally coming off the couch. Like it was that was something that was really a goal of mine last year. I didn't anticipate the elbow to take as long as it did, and then I didn't anticipate not being able to make the team. That was a whole other story. That was a bit frustrating. That really fired me
Uh,
up for a few days.
pre
But
Preach to the choir. I've
eh,
also been left off as a team when
they
you
just
have
decided
ranking that should. Yep.
not to fill a spot that was there to be filled, and
Oh,
you're like,
dude, I hate
somebody's gonna
hearing
die.
that, man.
But it is what it is. But yeah. But Champery this year. So I haven't been to Champery since Worlds. I don't think we've raced there since Worlds. So yeah,
No,
if
they
I'm
just did this European Cup thing last year. It looked faster and gnarlier,
yeah,
like, well, more doable, shall I say? Like there
sure.
was a few sketchy sections. The last one that weren't that consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think first year I missed Champery first year. You were probably there. That looked insane. It was like equally steep, but like fresh. By the time I had gotten there,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
had built some more berms, and now it looks a bit bike parky, but still so steep. So I'm sure it'll be a good race.
yeah. Probably will. That's cool. I'm excited for that. Cool. Maybe I've sparked a chip on your shoulder.
I'm gonna go do runs in the wet right now.
I watched your run, dude, from Tennessee, coming full circle on the pod. You
Yeah,
look pretty calm and collected, and to me, those are like the crappiest wet conditions when it goes hard pack and then rains. Oh my goodness!
yeah.
Just what were those conditions like?
It was pretty slippery for sure. It was
Yeah, it seemed it.
we got a pretty hard packed base here at Windrock. So if it rains a lot, it's awesome. And if it rains a little bit, it's okay. But if it's that in between, it doesn't really get like the thick peanut buttery. It just gets hard packed with like a greasy layer on top. And anywhere where there was some cushion, as soon as somebody slides the tire over it, it's gone. So every corner is like these ice berms. Like it gets pretty slippery. So I might have had a little bit of home track advantage on that one because I kind of know like how the dirt gets here when it gets slick, and I know the spots like that get gnarly. We pretty much made almost a whole new track. so I didn't have a lot of like everything rode different. But I understand the dirt here, and for me, I think I was just trying to be very smooth and consistent and not crash or make a mistake. Like I'm trying to aim towards June right now, and I just don't need an injury. So I was like, just be very smart, get down the hill. And I think that kind of played into my strengths for the conditions yesterday. I didn't make a lot of big mistakes.
No, definitely. And I was looking at, I mean, the female winner's still a junior, right?
Yep,
Aletha. I mean, to
she's gnarly.
me, yeah, the American depth is insane. And I mean,
Yeah,
this is kind of probably thanks to you as well, whether you know it or not. Like it seems, if I've got the timelines right, like this is what we're seeing. The wave of like the next Americans have seen like, because America had great races, then they went through a bit of a lull, and then you guys came through, and then you showed the world what America can do again. And it seems like now there's this resurgence of the talent there.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I hope so. If I was a part of it, that would be great. But yeah. I mean, you got Asa and Aletha and a bunch of other young kids coming up right now that are really good. Taking it serious. I mean, the Oscards, they just, like I mentioned earlier, they bought a house here probably a year ago. We're literally 5 minutes from the hill. They ride and train here all the time. Like Allie's in here every day. Her and Lauren are like BFFs, and like I'm a huge fan of that girl. She's so good on a bike. She's so young. Like she has so much progress, I think, still to go, and she's very mature, and I like her personality. Like she's chill. Like it doesn't seem like it's just going to be so much to where it's not fun for her, in time. She's got a pretty level head. So yeah, she's here a lot. Same with Asa. Like if you hang out with Asa, like dude, Asa just loves to ride his bike. He's always got a smile. Like my thing is just like protect that kid. Like don't
Yes.
put too much
Keep the
on
kid
him.
in him.
Let him just be a kid and ride bikes. I think Nico does a good job at that. So yeah, man, I'm stoked. Racing's looking really good here for our next generation. I think between Asa and Ali, like dude, they could be multi-time World Cup world champions pretty easily, potentially. Over the next 10 years, they could be breaking all my records, maybe. So we'll see. But I mean, there's also young kids coming out of Europe, like the Allran brothers. They were here this weekend, finished on the podium. There's a bunch of new wave. It seems like coming out of like Australia, New Zealand right now, and a bunch of other people I'm probably forgetting, but it seems healthy, man. It's crazy the depth at a national here now compared to what it was in years past. Like we were actually talking about the other day. I'm like, used to, if you showed up at a U.S. national, it was like me, Nico, Luca, uh, maybe like Logan Bengali. I don't know. That was about it. There's probably a few more I'm forgetting, but it was like there's like three or four guys that were pretty good. And if everybody had their best run, you kind of knew where the results were probably going to stack up. And that was it. And there'd be big gaps back to everybody. It's like, but if you look at qualifying from 2 days ago in the dry, I qualified 14th, 4 seconds off the pace. Dude, like there's so many young rippers racing here now. It's crazy. Like, and I was laughing because I was at the top of the hill on qualifying day. It's not even qualifying, it's seating. It means nothing. And we're at the top of the hill. Nobody used to be on warm up bikes before seating at a U.S. national. Like one or two dudes, maybe. I didn't even have a warm up bike half the time. I'd just like pedal it around in circles, like my downhill bike, and do some jumping jacks or something. But it was like, as a U.S. national, like you're just having fun. Like people show up on a warm up bike and people are like, wow, he's taking it really serious. Dude, it was like a World Cup at the top. There's trainers and mechanics and just crap everywhere. Like 40 people on trainer bikes, like sitting there warming up, like headphones in. I'm like, dude, this has changed. Like this sport is like not messing around. You go to a US national out here now, it's like, dude, these kids are they want to do it, man. They want to win. They want to go race the World Cups and make money and do it as a career, like it's serious now. So it's pretty crazy. It's cool to see how the sport's changing, like as far as the drive of the riders and potentially the opportunity and the future competition. Like it's definitely stepping up.
Well, you've only got yourself to blame
Yeah,
because
I
you've
know. I
inspired you've
should have chilled out
inspired
a little bit
them.
more. I fired everybody up too
Yeah,
much.
you shouldn't have been, so
To
quiet
take
and
it so
serious and
much.
won all those damn races and made us realize like you probably should put 100% effort in because you'll
Yeah.
get something out of it.
Yeah, maybe. But
Mate, this has been epic, and you've given me far more time than I thought we were going to even chat about today. I know you've had a huge couple months and weeks leading up to this, so yeah, congrats for pulling off this awesome race. It looked great. Maybe as we wind down, or just like, where do you see yourself in 10, 15 years? Because I did think you were just going to race and not be in the industry again, and clearly that's not the case.
Um, yeah, man. Well, yeah, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Thank you for your patience. I know that we've been trying to do this for a long time and I've been pretty flaky, but glad we finally got to do it. Yeah, and I don't know, man. If there's one thing I've learned in life is, dude, I have no idea. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I'd be living in Tennessee and own Windrock Bike Park, which I'd never ridden at before, like, dude, I was just finishing my California house. I thought I would never leave there ever. Like that was forever home. Like life has a funny way of changing, and I don't know, but for sure I'll be riding bikes. Uh, I don't know if I'll be racing, but I feel like I'll be around the race scene for sure because I love it. I would imagine Windrock will be doing its thing. I hope it can be big and be an awesome place to come ride here in the U.S. year round. On the race team thing, I don't know. Like I do enjoy running the program we have and working with younger riders and helping people kind of try to achieve their goals. Um, yeah, I'm sure family will be very important at that point, and I don't know, man. I always joke. I'm like, I kind of got two sides. I have one side where like I love being here and riding. I love hanging out with people, and then I have another side where like we could just disappear to our Montana house and like no one would ever see us again. Like I enjoy both of those things. So I probably be a mixture of that. I'd like to be in Montana more when things settle down. I love it out there. Like that's kind of what I feel like is home a little bit in some ways. Like all of our friends and family are here in Nashville, and we really love where we live there. But Montana's in the summertime. It's like that's my happy place. So probably spend more time there, but still be here a lot. Be here at the park. Still be riding. Probably going to races and at least hanging out. So some combo of that on a percentage scale, I'm sure.
That's the beauty of life, eh? You can't
Yeah.
actually predict it. You just gotta sometimes see where the wind blows you. But dude, thanks for you doing, man. I know a little bit about helping at bike parks and trying to manage and build them, and it's not an easy business.
No. Yeah.
Someone was asking me about this. Oh, this Gwin thing in a bike park. I said, I don't see the financials. I'm just saying, I don't. It's not so easy.
Yeah. You
It's
definitely
if
don't.
I was giving
Yeah.
advice, I'd tell him to race his bike for longer. That's easier.
For 100%. Yeah, you don't do this to get rich or like have a chill job. It is a lot of work for not a lot of money, at least right now.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love building trails, like having an event like we had this weekend where everybody's so stoked and it's good for US racing scene and you get to hang out and talk with so many people and everybody's so so many compliments and positive vibes and hanging with the Red Bull crew. Like their support has been so great. It's very fulfilling work, when it goes good and you have a weekend like we just did. But it is a lot of work. And sometimes I'm like, dude, yeah. It's just like
Why'd I
yeah.
get bored doing
I got
code? Why do I
injured.
do
My
these
wife always
things?
gives me crap. You're like, you were like 2 days out of surgery and you just walk downstairs and you're like, I think I'm gonna try to chat with Sean about the Windrock Bike Park. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, I think it could be cool. And she's just like, okay. Like we laugh because she's like, I didn't sign up for any of this. She's full race director at a mountain bike race. She doesn't know mountain biking. Like she always jokes, like in a joking way. She's like, I was just a trophy wife. I was just hanging out, happy to
Yeah,
be
I thought I
here.
was just gonna keep the chickens
Yeah,
alive. What's
man,
going
you're
on
just
here?
like taking care of the chickens. I'm chilling. You're racing, whatever. Like, now I'm like running a mountain bike event and managing a bike park. Like, what the heck you do to me?
She
But
didn't check the fine print, man.
yeah, I should have read the fine print, man.
Yeah,
Yep. Sometimes I turn left, sometimes I turn right. You never know.
you're
But
American. You can only turn left.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, but it's been fun, man. It's cool. Weekends like this make it all worth it for sure.
Awesome, man, dude. I've taken a lot of your time. I didn't get to ask you about your golf career, but clearly that's just on pause because like you were
Oh,
hinting at
it's
it like
terrible.
10 years ago, and I thought we'd have a round by now, but
No.
it's just
It
non-existent.
it's gone backwards, more than backwards. I haven't swung a club in I don't even know. I think I went to Top Golf for my birthday like 2 years ago, but yeah, we've had less than zero time for extracurricular things. And then with my elbow, I'm like, couldn't really do anything for a year. So golf's going to
True.
have to wait.
Well, when you're on your porch, maybe you'll have a little driving range out the back there, so
Yeah,
that'll be
yeah,
all right.
maybe.
Awesome, man. Well, everyone knows where to follow you. Follow him on Instagram. Follow him at the bike park. And dude, thanks so much for your time. I've really, really thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate the time very much. And yeah, get out to some races. It would be great to see you. Got to keep that permanent number too. Come do a national.
Yeah, I think I found a loophole.
Yeah,
I'll chat to Clay. I got to get more reason to get to US Open, which I'm sure I'll be at. But I think I got the
totally.
loophole. But to the listeners out there, cheers for the support. Make sure you follow this fast, crazy racer along. And till the next one, peace.
See you later, y'all.